This video has been brought to you by DataVinci Analytics Agency. In this video, you are going to learn what's the difference between the three kinds of page view triggers. That is, what's the difference between page view, DOM ready, and window loaded trigger. Right? Again, this is a very simple concept. So understand this thing. Let's start the discussion on a very simple note. So as soon as the user shows the intent of loading the page and the time when the page gets completely loaded, there are three critical things that happen. Actually, there are multiple things that happen, but just for the sake of this discussion, at the page view level, just assume that there are three things that happen, and you have to assume that because these are the only three triggers that are available with you. All right. So the first thing that would happen is the user shows the intent to load the page, and that is detected by Google Tag Manager as page view. The second thing is DOM ready, and third thing is window loaded. All right. So if you want to set your tags such that they fire as soon as possible, so as soon as the user shows the intent to load the page and as soon as you have validated that the user has landed on the page, then you will set on page view. If that's not the case, then you will go for DOM ready and window loaded. So let's look at that in more detail. So the user has landed on the page and the request from GTM in the head has been served. So you place the GTM code snippet in the head tag, right? So if it has happened that the browser has reached that part of the code where the GTM code is present in the head tag, then this page view trigger gets loaded. All right. So this is suitable for getting basic tracking of the traffic, because this will fire as soon as someone has landed on the page. So this is also the most commonly used trigger for global marketing and analytics tags. So if you look at the documentation of your marketing or analytics pixels, you will find that this is the most prescribed method by them for implementing the global tags of marketing or analytics, right? So what's the advantage of this tag? So this is the sure shot way to record the incoming traffic, because as soon as someone lands on the page, irrespective of whether the page loads or not, you will be able to track the incoming traffic, right? Whether they stay, whether they leave, whether they bounce, whatever happens, but you will for sure know that someone indeed came. So this is the advantage of this tag. The downside is that since this takes place as soon as possible someone comes, then at times it can happen that certain information that you want to capture in your custom dimensions, or let's say you want to pass it to your marketing platform or something, that might not be available when this trigger takes place. All right. So the plus point is that this is the sure shot way to make sure you record every incoming traffic. But as I said, that the downside is that since it takes place at the earliest, then certain information might not be available. So to tackle this, it is advised that you should populate your data layer before the GTM snippet or your tag manager. So the data layer should always be available before the GTM or any tag manager code is placed on the site. So let me show you on the site. So we are on the website of DataVinci, right? Now if we look at this code, so if I search for GTM, so right, so this is the code of GTM. So we need to make sure that when we are populating the data layer, the data layer should be before this code, this line 185. So whenever you're creating the data layer or passing any kind of custom information, then your dev should make sure that that piece of code is placed before this piece of code. So this will ensure that when the page loads, the first trigger itself has all the custom information. If that is not happening for any of the challenges, then you will next go to the DOM ready trigger. All right, so let's look at the DOM ready trigger now. Before moving further, I would like to invite you to join our group on Facebook, the Digital Optimization League. This is a free group and this is specific for the digital analytics community. Here we discuss things like updates in digital analytics, tag management, data visualization, conversion rate optimization, or any kind of advanced data science in digital analytics, right? So just show your intent to join the group and I will approve your request. The DOM ready. So the HTML code structure is ready in the browser. Then you can say that the DOM is ready in the browser. But this does not mean that the content that HTML code is requesting is also visible to the user. Let me again elaborate this on the website. So you might be aware that whatever you see on the front end is actually getting rendered because of the code at the back end. right? So these are the bits and pieces and atoms of whatever you are seeing in front. So DOM ready means that this code, this entire code structure, this code is available in the browser, right? But it does not mean that whatever this code is requesting is visible to the user. So the code of this image, this img tag, this tag is available to the browser, but it does not mean that if this image tag is requesting for certain image, that is also visible to the user. All right, so that's the difference. So if the data layer is getting updated after the page view, this trigger can be used to extract those extra values which were not available when the page view trigger took place, but are available with the DOM ready. Another use case is that if you want to pick certain values from the DOM, the code structure which is there now with you, then this trigger can be used. So if there are certain values which were not available with the page view and you need specifically from the DOM, then you can use the DOM ready trigger. Finally, the window loaded trigger, and I believe that this should be easy to understand once we have already covered page view and DOM ready. And window loaded simply means that everything has now been loaded on the browser and everything is ready. So using this one, almost everything is available for data tracking, right? But the downside is that window loaded is entirely dependent on the internet speed of the visitor, right? So it can also happen that before actually you could do something, the user left the page. So this is not advisable to track traffic or anything like that. So it is used in those cases where you want to have some kind of critical information which was not available with DOM ready or page view, or you are having multiple components on the page and they take different amount of time to get loaded. So one of the example can be like if you are on the checkout page and it has certain payment options, and those payment options, that value is coming from a different server and they take some time to load. So if you want to capture some information from the payment options, right, then you can use the window loaded trigger. Okay, so let's go to Google Tag Manager and create some basic tags using the 3 of them. Okay, so we are now in the debug mode of Google Tag Manager on our site. All right, so in the debug mode, as we know that this debugger comes. So here you can see multiple container loaded, and there can be multiple reasons for why a multiple container loaded would come. So ignore that for now, but just know this, that the first container loaded, all right, so that indicates your page view trigger. Okay, so here you will see that all the tags that we have set to fire on a page view trigger, they would get shown over here. So as you can see that other container loaded will not have those tags because only the first container loaded is the page view trigger. As such, now with the recent Google Tag Manager updates, you do not see a page view trigger explicitly over here. You just need to know that the first container loaded trigger is the page view trigger. Okay, DOM ready is self-explanatory, and window loaded is also self-explanatory. Okay, now you might have seen in the previous videos as well that you can click on summary, you can click on data layer, and that will show you that after all the triggers that have taken place over here, what is the status of the data layer. So it shows you that the current values of the data layer, that is summary. So it is something that got updated once everything was available. All right, now let's take an example. So we will take a new item. All right, so we want to fire a tag which is supposed to go on a page load. It can be page view, DOM ready, or window loaded when new item is equal to yes. All right, so this is hypothetical example. It can be any example where let's say you are using multiple tools and those tools are updating the data layer, and the data layer is getting updated at different triggers throughout this sequence of triggers. All right, now as a rule of thumb, okay, if you do not have as such any dependency on certain data points, all right, it is supposed to be a simple page load tag. So as a rule of thumb, always choose the page view trigger for firing your tags which are global tags. So if by global tags I mean those tags which need to be fired on all the pages, like your global Facebook pixel or global LinkedIn pixel or your global Google Analytics tags or things like that. So as a rule of thumb, if there is no dependency on any kind of data items that you need to pull from data layer or any other variable, then always choose page view, because as I mentioned earlier, that's the sure shot way for recording any kind of incoming traffic and activities related to that. All right, but here if we click on the first container loaded, that is our page view, and we go to data layer, so you will see that that new item is absent over here. Okay, so if we want to create a tag such that we can pick the value of new item, so that won't be possible with a page view trigger that is firing for the first time, where data layer is not properly updated. All right, so if I go to DOM ready, so over here also this new item is not available. So if I have to create a tag for this particular case where I want the value of new item, then I cannot create a tag either on DOM ready or on container loaded. All right, the only option then we have to do is just keep on looking and to find out when do we have a new item. So we can see that it gets available only after DOM ready, right? So if we have to go for any tag for any trigger, so our only option left is window loaded, because we want to set a new item mandatorily. All right, now this is strictly not advisable, because window loaded, as I mentioned earlier, is dependent on the internet speed of the user. But if it is critical and you have no other option left, then you can go with this trigger, where you can create a page load trigger which is based on window loaded, and then create a variable of new item and set that value for yes. All right, so that's also very easy. So if I go to variables, okay, and if I save this, then I can click on new variables, and then I can create a data layer variable, and here I simply need to type new item, refresh my preview, and refresh the page. So here in variables, we can click and just look for new item, and here is new item, which is undefined here. It remains undefined here, remains undefined here, remains undefined here. Here it gets defined. All right, so we know that when we are reaching window loaded, then obviously it's defined. So if we want to create a tag in such a case on window loaded, then we can click on new, and we can click on window loaded, some window loaded, and then we can choose new item, and then we can set it as yes. All right, so this is how you can create a tag for any of the conditions, be it DOM ready, page view, or window loaded. I'm again repeating that your first preference should be page view. If for any reason you are not able to pick certain values which are not available when the page view trigger happened, then your second preference should be trying to pass those values before the page view trigger. So making sure that the data layer it's updated before the page view takes place, right? If that is also not possible, then your third preference should be going for DOM ready and trying to find out that those data points that you are looking for, are those available or not. And even if that's not working, then only your last resolve should be window loaded. Otherwise, I would avoid window loaded personally. All right, so I think that should clarify what's the difference between page view, DOM ready, and window loaded. But still, if you have any doubts, feel free to comment them in the comment section below, and I will definitely address those.